Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Okay.
Ciao a tutti e benvenuti. Benvenuta Francesca. Ciao.
Ciao Mark e ciao a tutti i nostri ascoltatori. Sono felicissima di essere di nuovo qui.
Anch'io. We're delighted to be back with our first Coffee Break Italian live in a new season. Now, a few things. First of all, we're broadcasting both on YouTube and on Facebook today. So, on our YouTube Coffee Break Languages page and on our Facebook Coffee Break Italian page. So, wherever you're watching, you're very, very welcome. And before we do anything else, let me remind you that for today's exercise, you may need a pen and paper, or a pencil and paper, or something to take notes on, whether that's your phone or another device, because we're going to be doing some listening, and you'll need to take some notes. Non è vero, Francesca?
Sì, molto importante. Ho un WeJotter anche, va benissimo.
Un widget va benissimo, esatto. Okay, let's see who we've got watching today. Now, you'll also notice that we've got a timer up here. We're going to be very tight with time. Our lesson's going to take 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes. And when that clock gets to 0, that's exactly when we're going to start the lesson, so that everyone knows exactly how long we've got to go. Let us have a look. We have Sheila, who's been listening in from Cambridgeshire for 2 years. Benissimo, grazie. Sheila, we're delighted that you're able to join us. Who else do we
Abbiamo
have?
anche Tim. Ciao a tutti, ciao Tim.
Ciao, ciao. Okay, who else do we have? We've got Brian from California, who is studying Italian. You've been doing so for 10 years. Excellent. We hope that you enjoy this session, Brian.
E Judith dal Dorset in Inghilterra. Che bello il Dorset, mi piacerebbe visitare questa zona dell'Inghilterra.
Bellissima, bellissima. We've got Nini who's joining us, and she's joining us from Colombia. Fantastic. You're living in Canada. Well, sorry, you're joining us from Canada, but you're from Colombia originally. Just discovered Coffee Break Italian 2 months ago, and you're loving it. Grazie mille, Nini. Okay, let's see. Ah, qualcuno che conosciamo.
Ah, Lea, giusto si
Sì.
pronuncia? Sì, I studied Italian for 2 years and now I live in Italy. Sì, siamo... It looks familiar.
Yeah.
A familiar face.
Del-
Ciao, Lia o Lea.
Delighted to see you there. Who else do we have? We've got Damien joining us in California. Sto imparando l'italiano da un anno. Benissimo, benissimo. Okay, we've also got someone else that we recognize here, Francesca.
Sì, la mitica Barbara. I'm studying Spanish now. Okay, well, Barbara is a famous polyglot, but I just had to check in with Francesca. It's lovely to see you, Barbara. Ciao.
One of the nice things about using YouTube is that sometimes if you're learning another language, then perhaps you'll be inspired to learn this language that we're doing today. Now, we're doing an Italian lesson today. We did a French lesson yesterday. Tomorrow it's German and Thursday it's Spanish. So if you are learning one of those languages, then make sure you tune in for those others. A wee reminder, make sure you've got your pen and paper, your notes app, whatever you're going to use to take some notes. Francesca's all prepared there. Let's see who else we've got. Luke, who usually follows the German course, but you're very welcome here. Don't forget tomorrow to join us at the same time for some German tomorrow. Who else do we have?
Marino Macchiato, che bel cognome, come il caffè. Ciao Marino, dal Nederland, dall'Olanda.
Esatto. We've got Andrew joining us from just up the coast in Prestwick. Well, up the coast from me. Francesca, tu non sei in Scozia oggi.
Non proprio.
So you've been listening to Coffee Break Languages since 2012, Spanish and Italian. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us. Delighted to see you here. Who else do we have? Oh wow, you want to take this one?
Maribel, I wouldn't know how to pronounce the surname. Ciao da Kuala Lumpur. Wow, mamma mia, che lontano. Sto imparando da 6 mesi, l'adoro. Grazie mille, Maribel.
Grazie mille. E anche abbiamo Inger da Norvegia. Buongiorno, Inger. Okay. Thank you all for joining us today. It's great to see all these comments. Great to have you with us today, and great to be doing some Italian. Now, that clock is counting down. That means we are getting ready to start our live lesson. When it goes to 0, we will begin, and we're going to be doing some listening practice today. So, Francesca's got a text for us. We'll listen to that, and we'll look at some questions and then answer the questions together. Francesca, sei pronta?
Prontissima, sì,
Allora,
e spero che i nostri ascoltatori lo siano.
allora
Ok.
cominciamo. Okay, so there we've got our clock. 20 minutes, let's get started. So, as I said, we're doing some listening today. We're focusing on a very useful skill, listening, and it's something that lots of learners find quite challenging, especially because when you're listening, sometimes you are not able to see the person who's speaking. So, listening skills are very, very important. When in just a moment, we're going to look at some questions that Francesca's prepared based on the text that she's going to be reading. We'll hear the text once, and then we'll hear it again, and then we'll go through the answers to those questions. Now, the text is at a kind of upper beginner level. Would that be fair to say, Francesca?
Sì, sì, with some challenges in between.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay, let's then take a look at the questions together. So these are the questions. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Hang on a moment. There we go. These are the questions that we're going to be using today. So, first of all, why is summer important for Francesca? So, 2 points there. And she'll explain this. By reading these questions, you're going to be looking out for things. You're going to know what to look out for when Francesca is reading the text. Second question, how does she feel about autumn? Third question, how long has Francesca been living in Scotland? Fourth question, name at least 3 things Francesca likes about Scotland. Okay, and each time we're giving you the number of points per question here, so it gives you an idea of how many points you're looking for. Question number 5, is there something Francesca does not like about Scotland? I'm sure the answer is no, Francesca.
I like everything about Scotland.
Number 6, what does Francesca normally do every year in mid-July? 7, does Francesca live in a big Italian city? 8, whom does Francesca like to see when she's back home in summer? And number 9, where did Francesca go on holiday last year? So these questions obviously are in English. With them being in English, it means that you've got some ideas as to what you're listening for. It's equally possible to have questions in Italian, but sometimes if you've got questions in Italian, you're hearing Italian text, you don't actually need to understand what you're writing for your answer because both the questions and answers in Italian. So that's why we're focusing on English questions today. Francesca, puoi leggere il testo adesso?
Certo, sono pronta. Allora, cominciamo. L'estate per me è un momento importante dell'anno, non solo perché insieme all'autunno è la mia stagione preferita, ma anche perché è il periodo in cui posso finalmente tornare in Italia. Infatti, come molti di voi già sanno, io sono italiana. Sono nata e cresciuta in Italia, ma da 11 anni vivo in Scozia, a Glasgow. Adoro questa città, la sua gente simpatica, l'accento scozzese, la scena musicale, la natura e il whisky. Ma c'è una cosa che non mi piace molto, il clima e in particolare quello estivo. Per questo motivo, ogni anno, verso la metà di luglio, prendo le ferie dal lavoro e torno in Italia. Di solito trascorro un po' di settimane nel mio paesino, in Piemonte, a casa dei miei genitori e cerco di rivedere i miei parenti, i miei amici e i miei vecchi compagni di scuola. Poi, se posso, inserisco tra i miei programmi anche una vacanzina. D'estate mi piace andare al mare o fare un viaggio in qualche paese lontano. L'anno scorso, ad esempio, sono andata in Cile a trovare la mia amica cilena Silvana.
Benissimo. Okay. So as we hear as we see the questions, we can start to think about the words and phrases that Francesca might use in order to answer those questions. So that last question there was, what did you do last year? And you might have heard Francesca say l'anno scorso. So that's your key word that you're listening for. Shall we listen one more time to the passage? Francesca, perhaps this time you can read it a little faster. Okay?
Ok, ok,
Okay.
va bene.
Let's just go back to our questions. Okay.
Ok, perfetto. Allora, l'estate per me è un momento importante dell'anno, non solo perché insieme all'autunno è la mia stagione preferita, ma anche perché è il periodo in cui posso finalmente tornare in Italia. Infatti, come molti di voi già sanno, io sono italiana, sono nata e cresciuta in Italia, ma da 11 anni vivo in Scozia, a Glasgow. Adoro questa città, la sua gente simpatica, l'accento scozzese, la scena musicale, la natura e il whisky. Ma c'è una cosa che non mi piace molto, il clima e in particolare quello estivo. Per questo motivo ogni anno, verso la metà di luglio, prendo le ferie dal lavoro e torno in Italia. Di solito trascorro un po' di settimane nel mio paesino, in Piemonte, a casa dei miei genitori e cerco di rivedere i miei parenti, i miei amici e i miei vecchi compagni di scuola. Poi, se posso, inserisco tra i miei programmi anche una vacanzina. D'estate mi piace andare al mare o fare un viaggio in qualche paese lontano. L'anno scorso, ad esempio, sono andata in Cile a trovare la mia amica cilena Silvana.
Ok, benissimo, grazie Francesca. Um,
Prego, Mark.
am I right in thinking that there's someone who wants to take part in this this broadcast, barking in the
Can you hear
background?
my dog barking?
Ciao Fergus.
Oh, mamma mia. I think he's just back. He went out for walkies with my mom.
Good, good. Okay, so let's go through the answers. And as we ask each question, what we'll do is listen to the part of the text that Francesca provided, and that will give us the answer. So, why is summer important for Francesca? We're looking for 2 points. Francesca, could you read that little section?
Sì, l'estate è la mia stagione preferita e il periodo in cui posso finalmente tornare in Italia.
Okay, so 2 points there. First of all, it's her favourite season, and it's the time of year when she can finally get back to Italy. Okay, so question number 2. How does Francesca feel about autumn? So let's listen to that section again.
L'estate per me è un momento importante dell'anno, non solo perché insieme all'autunno è la mia stagione preferita.
Okay, so insieme all'autunno, together with autumn, then it's her favourite part of the year. So there we go. It's her other favourite season. Question number 3. How long has Francesca been living in Scotland?
Da 11 anni vivo in Scozia.
So hopefully you got that number there. Again, you're looking for a number, so 11 years. 11 anni. Okay, number 4. Name at least 3 things that Francesca likes about Scotland. You said lots of things, I think, didn't you?
There are 5,
5,
but
okay.
we
So
thought that 3 are enough to get the 3 points.
okay, so let's hear what you said. 3 of these.
La sua gente simpatica, l'accento scozzese, la scena musicale, la natura, il whisky.
Okay, so 5 different things there. Nice or friendly people, Scottish accent, the music scene, nature, and whiskey. Okay, and the next question. Is there something Francesca does not like about Scotland?
Il clima e in particolare quello estivo.
Right, so this is not too difficult to find out the weather, but in particolare quell'estivo, so the summer one, estivo, the adjective for summer. Good, okay, next question, number 6, was what does Francesca normally do every year in mid-July?
Prendo le ferie dal lavoro e torno in Italia.
So 2 points there, she takes leave from work and goes to Italy. Number 7, does Francesca live in a big Italian city?
Nel mio paesino.
So that's the key there. Paesino, un paese, a village, un paesino, a little village. And if you would like to see the little village where Francesca lives, then make sure you visit our YouTube channel where you've got a special video that we filmed last year when we took a trip to the famous, the world famous city of Pettinengo.
Pettinengo.
Okay, so number 8, whom does Francesca like to see when she's back home in summer?
I miei parenti, i miei amici e i miei vecchi compagni di scuola.
Now watch this one because there's a bit of a false friend in here, isn't there? I
Sì,
miei parenti, they're not parents, they're relatives, okay, all relatives. Amici, friends, and old schoolmates. The amici di scuola. And question number 9, where did Francesca go on holiday last year? Francesca?
l'anno scorso sono andata in Cile.
Okay, in Chile. So to Chile, she went to Chile. Now, let me just come back here so that I can check how many points this was all worth. So 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 15, and probably an extra couple of bonus points if you got 5 things for that one. Where
Yeah,
there
get
were 5.
yourself a wee star if you got the 5
Let us
things I
know.
like about Scotland.
Let us know in the comments how many points you got. And while you're doing that, Francesca, would you like to read this full text? Just read it quickly this time while we've got the text on the screen.
Certo, l'estate per me è un momento importante dell'anno, non solo perché insieme all'autunno è la mia stagione preferita, ma anche perché è il periodo in cui posso finalmente tornare in Italia. Infatti, come molti di voi già sanno, io sono italiana, sono nata e cresciuta in Italia, ma da 11 anni vivo in Scozia, a Glasgow. Adoro questa città, la sua gente simpatica, l'accento scozzese, la scena musicale, la natura e il whisky. Ma c'è una cosa che non mi piace molto, il clima e in particolare quello estivo. Per questo motivo ogni anno, verso la metà di luglio, prendo le ferie dal lavoro e torno in Italia. Di solito trascorro un po' di settimane nel mio paesino, in Piemonte, a casa dei miei genitori e cerco di rivedere i miei parenti, i miei amici e i miei vecchi compagni di scuola. Poi, se posso, inserisco tra i miei programmi anche una vacanzina. D'estate mi piace andare al mare o fare un viaggio in qualche paese lontano. L'anno scorso, ad esempio, sono andata in Cile a trovare la mia amica cilena Silvana.
Perfetto. Okay, let's go straight on to the next part. Noticing some of your comments here, we've got some 10s, some 13s, some 14s, and one 15 so far. Excellent, well done. Right, let's move on to
Bravissimi.
our next part of the text because I'm looking at this clock and it's counting down. We've got to stick to our 20 minutes. So,
Il tempo vola.
il tempo vola. Is it unusual for Francesca to spend the whole summer in Scotland? 1 point. How did Francesca spend her summer in Scotland this year? 2 points. Does Francesca like her new flat and why? And there's 5 points for that. And did Francesca manage to go to Italy at some point? You're only going to hear this text once. So listen really carefully. Francesca, over to you.
Va bene. Quest'anno però le cose sono andate un po' diversamente. Infatti ho trascorso quasi tutta la mia estate in Scozia, una cosa che non era mai successa prima nella mia vita. E sapete perché? Ho cambiato casa e quindi ho passato tutto il mese di agosto a cercarne una nuova e a fare trasloco. Non è stato facile, ma alla fine ho trovato un appartamento molto carino, con vista su uno dei parchi della città. Sono felicissima perché appena ho un attimo di tempo posso andare a correre, a fare una passeggiata e persino a osservare i cigni nel laghetto. Ma non è tutto. Alla fine di agosto sono comunque riuscita a tornare in Italia, dove mi aspettava un bel calduccio e dove mi trovo tuttora. Beh, tutto sommato, anche questa è stata una bella estate.
Perfetto. Okay, now that was quite fast and lots of information in there. But again, what we're really looking for are the answers to these specific questions. So let's go through them now. Question number 1. Is it unusual for Francesca to spend the whole summer in Scotland? Francesca, do you want to read this just that bit and perhaps a little more slowly so that we can identify the correct answer to this question?
Una cosa che non era mai successa prima.
So it was a thing che non era mai successo prima. It had never happened before. So it was the first time in her life that she spent the whole summer in Scotland. Okay, question number 11. How did Francesca spend her summer in Scotland this year?
Ho passato tutto il mese di agosto a cercarne una nuova e a fare trasloco.
Right, so she was looking for a new flat and moving house. So she spent the whole of the month of August looking for a new flat and then moving house. So those are your 2 points there. Question 12. Does Francesca like her new flat and why? Now, there are lots of points in there. Will we go through each one by one?
Sì, ho trovato un appartamento molto carino,
So I found a really lovely new flat
con vista su uno dei parchi della città.
with views of one of the parks of the city.
Posso andare a correre,
So she can go for a run,
a fare una passeggiata
for a walk,
e persino a osservare i cigni nel laghetto.
Now, there's an interesting word there, ichini. Ichini, okay, those are the swans. So she
Mhm.
can even go and see the swans swimming in the little lake in the park.
Sì, il laghetto,
In Laghetto.
bravissimo.
So there you go, very nice, with a view of one of Glasgow's parks where she can go for a walk, a run, or see the swans in the Smalley Lake. Oh, a little typo there, sorry about that. And question number 13, did Francesca manage to get to Italy at some point?
Sono comunque riuscita a tornare in Italia dove mi trovo tuttora.
Okay, so she did manage. Sono riuscita. She did manage to get back to Italy at some point. And then you said where?
Dove mi trovo tuttora.
Dove mi trovo, where I find myself, tuttora, right up to now. So I'm still
Sì.
here. I'm still in Italy. So Francesca, sei in Italia, io sono in Scozia. Fa brutto tempo oggi. Come va il tempo in Italia?
Purtroppo anche qui in Piemonte il tempo non è bello, fa freddo, c'è un po' di nebbia e sì, è un po' drich,
Un po'
come
di
si direbbe in Scozia.
Benissimo. Okay, let's look at this text. We've got that answer there. Let's look at the text. And Francesca, could you read this out then one more time, please?
Quest'anno però le cose sono andate un po' diversamente. Infatti ho trascorso quasi tutta la mia estate in Scozia, una cosa che non era mai successa prima nella mia vita. E sapete perché? Ho cambiato casa e quindi ho passato tutto il mese di agosto a cercarne una nuova e a fare trasloco. Non è stato facile, ma alla fine ho trovato un appartamento molto carino, con vista su uno dei parchi della città. Sono felicissima perché appena ho un attimo di tempo posso andare a correre, a fare una passeggiata e persino a osservare i cigni nel laghetto. Ma non è tutto. Alla fine di agosto sono comunque riuscita a tornare in Italia, dove mi aspettava un bel calduccio e dove mi trovo tuttora. Beh, tutto sommato, anche questa è stata una bella estate.
Perfetto, benissimo, grazie mille.
Prego.
Francesca, is there anything that you wanted to pick up on in the text? There's one little thing that I've seen that I'd really like to talk about, but Francesca, do you want to go first?
I'm wondering if you're referring to the ne in
Ah,
cercarne.
it's
If
exactly
I know
that.
you well, Mark.
Oh, I love a little nay. So, do you want to explain what's going on?
Sì, when I said ho cambiato casa e quindi ho passato tutto il mese di agosto a cercarne una nuova. We are using the ne, which we have discussed several times now in different episodes of Coffee Break Italian. When we are replacing a noun which has already been mentioned, in this case, casa, instead of using the direct object pronoun, if there is a reference to quantity, and in this case, the quantity is una because I only have one flat for me. So instead of saying cercarla, we have to use ne. The idea is I've been looking for one of them, of all the possible flats available. I've been looking for one of all of them.
Benissimo, a lovely little ne, a very useful little word. It's a small one, but it's very useful. And
Mhm.
one other thing I loved was un bel calduccio. How would you translate that into English?
It's like it was nice and warm, or a nice warm weather. It's difficult to translate it uh, with the same
The same feeling,
nuance.
the same nuance, yep. And unfortunately, time is up, so that we're going to have to leave the calduccio there. In fact, we'll probably need to leave it in Italy because I don't think the calduccio is coming anywhere near here as in Scotland. Benissimo, grazie mille. Okay, let's just bring this back. We can come back to our screen and look at some of your comments. We hope that you've enjoyed this. It's been a slightly different way of doing it. I think everyone was really focusing and concentrating hard. It was great to see your scores there. As I said, the first time round we had some 14s, 13s, 10s, 15s.
Wow.
Excellent. And Nicole saying, I like that we can see the text also, so thank you for this little extra. Brilliant. Thank you, Nicole. Sylvia saying, it's my first time here and I'm loving this. Great. Brilliant. So what's Rosemary saying? So I love that we can listen live and so quickly. Cannot wait to get back to Italy and use that language. C'è anche Magdalena della Norvegia.
In Norvegia oggi nevica, che bello, che meraviglia. Enjoy the snow.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, so I think generally people were finding the second part a little more difficult. Obviously, that we only heard it once, and you were reading it relatively quickly, Francesca,
Yeah.
that time. But okay, it was all good. Ariel's saying, "I love Coffee Break French season 4 and bought it. Can you do something that level in Italian?" Well, that will come.
Piano piano.
Piano piano, sì, sì, sì. Ok. What's Leah saying? Qua in valle si muore dal freddo. Poverina.
Ah, in Valle d'Aosta, è vero, è
Sì, sì.
vero. Quindi vicino al Piemonte, sì, ha ragione, fa freddo.
Susan's asking about questions and answers also in Italian, and that's something we mentioned at the beginning. We decided this time to focus on English questions, and obviously that means you're having to do a second job. You're translating what you're hearing, so it's a different type of activity from having questions in Italian along with the text in Italian. But we've got lots of different things planned for our next Coffee Break Italian lives, and we'll be doing different kinds of activities each week that we're running a live. Now there will be a live next week, next Tuesday morning for us. At the moment, it's coming up on 4 o'clock here in the afternoon in Scotland, 5 o'clock in Italy. But obviously, that would be earlier in the day in the US. But if you're in Australia and you're watching this, maybe you should go back to bed. But next week at 9:30 in the morning, our time, or at least UK time, that means if you're watching in Australia, then you'll have a pleasant evening coffee break with us then. And if you're watching in the US, then either you get up really, really early or you can watch us on the replay, as it were. So that's 9:30 next week. Sally's saying, very much enjoyed this. Oh, that didn't come up. Very much enjoyed this, although it was challenging. Well, it's always great to be working just a little further than, a little harder than you find comfortable. And what's Barbara saying?
Great idea with the questions, thank you. I still understand some, that's great.
Excellent. Now, it may be snowing in Norway, Magdalena, but fa freddo.
Immagino.
Marlene is saying, only caught up in the end, but so nice to hang out with you. Great. Catherine is saying...
My first time listening, I did not understand anything, but so enjoyed it. Catherine, I'm sure you understood something, I'm sure.
And don't worry, you can go right back to the very beginning of Coffee Break Italian and start with lesson 1 and learn with us gradually. So you'll find all the podcasts available on any podcast device, any way in which you can access podcasts. Now, just one other thing. And that is a little reminder that we are we've got our Coffee Break Italian travel diaries that have been happening, and they have finished for the time being. We have announced that we're going to be returning to doing some travels in the new year, so you can look forward to that. But in the meantime, don't miss our Coffee Break Italian To Go series. And we filmed this last year before we couldn't travel anywhere. We filmed it in the beautiful town of Stresa, and lots of interviews with people in the streets. So you're hearing lots of different accents, lots of different speeds of Italian. And this is all available on YouTube. So all our episodes are on YouTube. But we also have a new thing for this, and that's the podcast version. So with the podcast version, we'll listen to each of the interviews and we'll explain what's happened in the interviews by going through the language in detail. So while the videos last maybe 4 or 5 minutes, the podcast version is about 20 minutes, our normal kind of coffee break lesson. So if you're subscribed already to Coffee Break Italian, the podcast on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you'll be able to listen to our Coffee Break Italian To Go podcast. So... just a couple of other questions. We need to get finished this. Zainab is asking, will the replays be here or in YouTube? The replays will be both on YouTube and on Facebook, and they'll be available for the following week until we do another one. What else? So next chat at 9:30 Tuesday in a week. Yeah, so 9:30 in the morning, our time in the UK, in a week. But what you need to do in order to get all the information about this is make sure that you subscribe to the Radiolingua newsletter, our Coffee Break catch-up newsletter that goes out every Monday morning, and it will have all the links for all our lives in that newsletter. So just make sure you're subscribed to that, and I think I can put radiolingua.com newsletter. I should be able to put that on the screen. There you go. So make sure you subscribe to that, and that way you will see our latest news. Francesca, grazie mille come sempre.
Grazie a te Mark, e grazie a tutti i nostri ascoltatori che come sempre partecipano con tutto il loro entusiasmo. Spero che vi sia piaciuto questo nuovo formato.
Esatto. Let us know what you think of this new format. We hope that you continue to enjoy what we do. But for now, grazie mille e arrivederci. Alla prossima. Ciao.
Ciao, happy coffee breaking.